Welcome. I'm going to be sharing some information here around the symptoms and manifestations of the shadow and how you can identify when your shadow could be taking over. First off, what is the shadow? The shadow is coined by Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, and it is a part of ourselves that holds a lot of uncomfortable energies and emotions and experiences. Our shadow can be deemed as something unacceptable in modern society. It is something that we may also repress and hide and completely avoid altogether. But our shadow holds the key to our light. The shadow is a part of us, and by understanding our shadow, we can become more whole and more integrated. So when we are unable to see part of ourselves and recognize part of ourselves, we are dismissing our wholeness. And it is sometimes uncomfortable to understand the shadow or to consciously be aware of when the shadow could be taking over. The shadow can come in very unconscious ways. The first one is going to be unexplained emotional reactions. This is also known as triggers. These responses that can come in unconsciously, such as anger, resentment, fear even, or sadness. These emotions can come up and overtake our experience altogether. They can also make us feel like we're out of control. But when we are out of control with our emotions and when we are letting our emotions control us and our experience, then we are operating unconsciously. So this is one of the biggest indicators of understanding if your shadow is taking over. If you feel a reaction or if you have been triggered by something, take a pause. And it's okay, by the way, to be triggered and to have emotional reactions. We are human. And part of this self-discovery phase is leaning into ourselves and understanding where these triggers may be coming from, where these emotions may be coming from. The secret is to try not to remain in those emotions very long. So give yourself a certain time frame to feel those emotions and to get close with them, and then go into yourself a little bit deeper to understand where they're really coming from. We can often look at our outer world, people, relationships, someone cutting us off in traffic, or someone saying something to us that triggers an emotional response. But it's not necessarily the people that are really creating that emotion. It's something deeper that has been unresolved. And by understanding our emotions and by shining light on those shadow aspects, then we can understand ourselves more, and we can integrate these emotions to become more aware of ourselves. And eventually our triggers and our emotional responses will dissipate. So the more awareness that we have and the more compassion we have towards ourselves and towards others, then our emotions are naturally going to subside. Again, this is a shadow aspect that requires a lot of restraint and courage and self-awareness, but it will help you work through a lot of these emotional impulses all of a sudden that may come up. The second one is going to be repeated relationship patterns. These can be toxic relationships. These can be unhealthy relationships. These can be relationships that may resemble maybe mother or father archetypes. These patterns are deeply ingrained within the shadow and within the subconscious, and holds a lot of information about an unresolved aspect within ourselves that has not been looked at yet. When we are finding ourselves in patterns and repetitions, putting ourselves into difficult relationships, getting stuck in difficult relationships, or even justifying being in difficult relationships, there is a shadow aspect there that needs to be looked at. So when we are not in alignment with our authenticity and with our wholeness and with what we feel most in alignment with, we are going to attract that which is reflective of our shadow self. And within that, there's going to be patterns, unconscious patterns that we may find ourselves in unconsciously. We may create these patterns unconsciously. And as I mentioned, they may be resembling patterns of the past, of childhood, and maybe the mother-father archetype, or even other relationships from your earlier formative years. So be aware of any repeating patterns within relationships. Now, this could be friendships, it could be coworkers, and it could be love relationships. The third one is procrastination and avoidance. This can also fall under self-sabotage. So do you ever find yourself procrastinating, putting maybe responsibilities off, or creating a list and then getting to the list maybe a month later? There could also be avoidance of confrontation or things that need to be done, or even overcoming a certain challenge. This can be the shadow taking over and preventing you from moving forward. Now, again, as I mentioned, this can come in the form of self-sabotage, where there may be fear around the future or fear around the outcome or the worst case scenario. So check in with yourself if there's any procrastination or avoidance of certain responsibilities or even confrontation. The fourth one is projection of negative traits. This one's very important because when we are operating under our shadow, under the influence of our shadow, this means unconsciously we can project our negative traits onto others. This can be criticism, criticizing others, but at the same time we are pointing the finger towards others, we are also pointing it at ourselves. This can be judgment, this can be shame, this can be anger. This can be looking at someone in a certain way, in a certain perspective that is reflective of how we feel about ourselves on our deeper level. The shadow, when we are in relationships, when we are engaging with our outer world, the world does reflect our inner selves, how we feel about ourselves and what we see on a deeper level. So when we are projecting our negative traits onto others, we are simply projecting what we have not resolved within our deeper self. So this does require a lot of inner work and exploration, but also just being observant as far as what kind of projections may be sent outwards towards the world or towards other relationships. And again, as I mentioned, this can come in the form of negativity, criticism, judgment, shaming, fear even, anger, etc. The fifth one is impulsive or destructive behavior. When our unconscious is becoming activated and we are operating impulsively, quick decisions, doing something in haste, maybe reacting to someone very quickly, then we are working against our inner values and our inner beliefs. It can be coming in from a subconscious belief or from a fear or from unresolved emotional wounds that need to be healed and need to be looked at. So where could there be maybe impulsive or destructive behavior showing up in your life? This could also be when one turns to maybe food or overindulgences or substances, for example. Those are all very unconscious actions or behaviors that are fueled from unresolved unconscious beliefs. The sixth one is persistent negative thought patterns. If we are ruminating, or if we're thinking of the past, or if we are hard on ourselves, or maybe even a level of perfectionism when we are overthinking things that we have done wrong, if we've been placing a lot of criticism on ourselves, this can perpetuate a lot of negative thinking. Now, this can come in as a subconscious pattern and a belief that is very deep within. Low self-worth, not good enough, or not feeling adequate enough. There's a lot of perfectionistic standards with overthinking as well. So is there overthinking, a lot of ruminating, a lot of even looking at the negative side of self or negative side of life or relationships altogether? That will be an indicator of the shadow taking over and some of the symptoms that may be as a result. The seventh one is really important. This is physical symptoms. Your body is communicating with you all the time, and it is your last resort for change to happen. How is your body responding to difficult situations? There could be anything from aches and pains and illnesses, sleep disorders, anxiety, that comes from within the shadow. That comes from emotions that are buried deep within, maybe repressed, or even subconscious belief systems that have not been looked at yet. So it's really important to pay attention to the body. If you are going through stress or if you're going through uncertainty, the body very well could respond. When you're paying attention to the body, you're creating more awareness with your whole self. Everything is connected at the end of the day. Our subconscious triggers thoughts. Our thoughts trigger emotions, and our emotions create behaviors. Our emotions inspire behaviors, but those emotions also do manifest in the body. So we can make ourselves sick. And this is a very important aspect to look at. How is your body communicating with you, and where does it need your attention? The eighth one is going to be loss of creativity and passion. This can be when your shadow is taking over and when you may feel out of alignment with your authentic self. Now, this could mean that fear maybe is taking over. This is where maybe uncertainty could be taking over. It's usually going to come from some kind of fear or some kind of belief system that is buried deep within. When our shadow is taking over and when our unconscious limiting beliefs are taking over, there can be a sense of restriction towards our authenticity, our true gifts and talents, and our passion and our purpose in life. If there is a loss of passion and purpose, and maybe even if depression takes over, it means there is a misalignment within self. And it also can mean that your true authenticity, your gifts, your talents, your wholeness is being suppressed in some kind of way. So this does take a lot of observation of where you might be holding yourself back in some kind of form. What needs to come to the surface as far as your true talents and gifts, and what might need to be resolved within your deeper self to break free from the layers of fear or self-sabotage or uncertainties. The ninth one is isolation and withdrawal. And this does follow a little bit from the previous one, number 8. This can be when we self-isolate and when we hold ourselves back from engaging with the world or showing the world our true authentic self. When we are not living to our full potential, or when we're not even in alignment with our authenticity or expressing our authenticity, expressing our truth, or doing what we might love to do, then we can definitely self-isolate and detach. Also, if we've lost trust with others and with the universe and within ourselves, that can create a form of self-isolation. So this can be when the shadow is taking over and suppressing one's authenticity and personal potency. And the 10th and final one is reoccurring dreams and or nightmares. Dreams are a gateway into our subconscious, into our emotional, our deeper selves. Dreams offer us an ability to understand ourselves on a deeper way by analyzing what might be reoccurring in our dreams when we are asleep. There may be patterns, there may be even feelings that may come up during dreams. Now, I'm not a dream expert, but I have heard before that paying attention to how you feel in your dreams is a huge indicator of what that dream might be telling you and what might be repressed or suppressed within your subconscious and even your emotional being, your emotional self. So pay attention to maybe what might be suppressed or what might be trying to come out into life, into fruition that you may be holding back, what might need to heal and what might need to be looked at within the psyche in order to set yourself free. So dreams can be a huge indicator of something that is buried deep within that may need some observation and some awareness. And it's really important to remember that your shadow holds the key to your light. I have been exploring my shadow and my deeper self for about 3.5 years now. And I healed myself and I created incredible change by going within. You can create incredible change within yourself through self-observation alone, being compassionate, giving yourself some time and space to feel and to sense and to observe. When you give yourself some time and space to feel and sense and observe, then you're also going to have a greater sense of self-actualization, which is truly an evolved state of being. This also allows you to become more whole. And as I mentioned earlier, when we see more of ourselves, when we shine light on aspects within our being, we become more whole. We aren't hiding or dismissing or repressing parts of ourselves or avoiding parts of ourselves. We're actually looking into ourselves. And that is where true healing lies. This was a hugely transformative aspect of my transformation journey that I've been on over the last few years. So I do hope that this offers some guidance for your transformative healing and manifestation journey. If you're looking for more guidance and looking to understand your shadow deeper, join me over on the Shadow Project. It is a month-long extensive program where you'll be able to learn more about your shadow. And it's also a very structured program to highlight certain aspects within your shadow for self-awareness, healing, and transformation. I'm wishing you all the best with your journey and beyond, and I will be seeing you again very soon. Take care.